welcome to another how-to video. If I sound more like a nasally American than normal, I apologize. I've got a cold. But we are today going to install a web server on a Windows VPS. This would be the same as installing it on your local machine or a dedicated server. I just happen to be installing it on a VPS, which was graciously provided to me by the guys at GG Hosting, gg-hosting.net. They offered me one to use for making these videos. So for that, I am very thankful because I'm cheap and I wasn't looking forward to leasing a VPS to make these videos. So thanks to those guys. If you are in need of a Windows server, you can pick it up through them. If you use the promo code SCHWIM, SCHWIM as in Michael, you'll get 10% off your order, which is another cool thing they did. So thanks guys for that. We are installing a, if you're on a Windows machine, it's called WAMP, and if you're on Linux, it's called LAMP. And all it means is Windows Apache MySQL PHP server. Those are the three things, Apache, MySQL, and PHP, that you pretty much need for a robust web server. And it's just a fancy way of saying that you're installing all of those necessary things. And we are going to do it with a kind of all-in-one installer. And so we're going to set that up today and get it up and running and accessible through a domain. And it shouldn't take long at all. So the first thing you need to do is you need to connect to your remote server, and you need three things. You need a IP address or domain, you need a username, and you need a password. It's just like logging into a Windows machine that you're sitting in front of. We just happen to be doing it over a remote connection. And Windows uses something called Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP. So if you are on a Windows machine and you want to connect to a remote Windows machine this way, your server, all you need to do is in the lower left, click the Windows icon, menu, bring up the menu, start typing remote, and you should see Remote Desktop Connection pop up. Click on that, and that gets you to the remote connection window. If you are on any other operating system, you can use any application that can connect via RDP. In my case, it's going to be Remina, R-E-M-M-I-N-A, and you need the same three things. You need the IP address, username, and password. And make sure if you aren't on a Windows machine, you're not using the built-in RDP system, that you do choose RDP as the connection method, because that's really all the default Windows operating system understands. So if you try to connect via VNC or SSH or something like that, it's not going to work. So we're going to go ahead and connect to the remote server. All right, so we are connected to the VPS, and we're just going to go right into installing the web server. There are 4 steps to this, and they're all very simple. You need to install before you install the web server. For a Windows machine, you need to install the Visual C 2012, 2013, and 2015. And I will put the links below the video. It's super simple. You want to just choose the 64-bit architecture for all three of them. So click Next. Thanks you for downloading. Hit it, run it, agree to it, install it. And it's all super quick. You're going to do that for all three. And we'll pick 64-bit architecture again. And let it download. Run it. Done. Third time's the charm. 64-bit. All right, close it. Those are the only three prerequisites to installing this application. If you try to install the application prior to those three, it will break it. So once you're sure you got those three redistributables installed, go to wampserver.com, scroll down, choose the 64-bit architecture, download directly, download latest version, and then it's going to go ahead and start the file download. All right, now that you've got that, open it up. Accept the agreement. Hit next. Hit next. Third time's the charm. And it will uncompress and install the entire application. All right, once it's done installing, it asks you what you want to use as the default browser and text editor. Go ahead and pick whatever you like. You'll have to have already installed them to choose something different. And click Done. And you have the entire web server installed on the server. In this case, with the fresh install, we're going to go ahead and double click that to get it started. And you can see down here that the local server is running. A right click gets you to all of the settings and tools. But what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the web server is working, and do that just by going to localhost. And that is your local index file. It shows you the Apache server version you're running, PHP, and tells you what you've got for virtual hosts and stuff. And we're also going to test phpMyAdmin. So we're going to go to localhost phpMyAdmin. And for default install, it's root with no password. And you can always change that and add users. But we know now that our Apache server is working and MySQL is working. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that these things start up on server restart. So instead of having to double click that icon to get everything running, you want to make sure that it's running all the time. Right when the server starts up. So you're going to go to your Windows menu and type in services.msc, and open that up all the way and scroll down until you get to, you can see 3 services here: WAMP Apache 64, WAMP MariaDB 64, WAMP MySQL. So what you want to do is you want to double click those and switch those to automatic. And what that means is on server restart, they will automatically start up. It won't require any intervention on your part. So next time that server starts up, the Apache server will get running right away. All right, you're done with that, and you have installed the Apache server MySQL with PHP support and everything. What you're left with needing, however, if you want to access this server through a domain from the World Wide Web, is you need to create a virtual host. And all that is entry into a file that tells the web server to correlate a domain name request incoming with a directory in a file. So to do that, you want to open up a file explorer, and I'm going to create a web root on the machine. So we're going to go ahead and do a new folder, and we'll set it up as www, and inside that we're going to create the folder that we want to associate with this virtual host. So for the purpose of the demonstration, I've got a domain 3amigos.org that's not being used. So we're going to go ahead and set that up, and I'm going to create a folder for that, and inside of that we will create a new file. And I will say this: we need to change your view to not hide the extensions, because as you can see, it didn't save it as HTML, saved it as html.txt, which we don't want. So your root file needs to be .html or .php. So we're just going to create that so we've got a file in the web root. And to do that, we're going to open it up with Notepad. And we're going to just add something to it so we know when we've reached it. All right, and we'll save it, close that out, and that leaves us needing to do 2 things. One is to create the entry for the domain in the virtual host file, and we also need to create a rule in the firewall allowing external traffic inbound. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to create the virtual host entry. You can see right now the only one we have created is localhost. So we're going to go into here, and you're going to find this through your WAMP install, bin Apache, Apache with the version number, conf, and then extra. And you're going to open the httpd vhost.conf in your editor, and then you're going to go ahead and just copy this initial entry, and we're going to go put it right below it, paste it, and change localhost to your domain that you're going to do without the www. So in my case it's 3amigos.org. and then below that, for server alias, it's going to be the www version. So regardless of which way someone tries to visit it, they'll be able to get to this website. So 3amigos.org. And then for document root, we're going to change that to the folder I created and put the index file into. So for us, it's c:/www 3amigos without a trailing slash. And then for the bottom, the directory is going to be c:/www 3amigos and then with the trailing slash. And then the only other thing we're going to change is where it says require local, we're going to change it to require all granted. And that allows external traffic to also reach the site, not just the browser on the local machine. So once you've done that, go ahead and save it and then close it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure the entry shows up. It does. But for any changes to take effect, we need to go to Tools and then restart DNS. So this server recognizes that the new site's been added. And it goes green, so you know that the server's been restarted. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to test this locally. So 3amigos.org. And you can see the file I created comes up as the index for this. So this is on the local machine. This is on the virtual private server. And so it's coming up correctly. So we know that we've created the virtual host correctly. But take a look at what happens if I try to reach that from my computer. If I do it here, you can see that nothing comes up. It can't reach the site. And the reason for that is because we haven't created the firewall rule to allow that traffic to get to the web server. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Windows menu on your VPS and you're going to type fire and then just hit enter to bring up the firewall. And once you're there, it brings up the window. You can see the different types of rules we can create. We want inbound rule, and you're going to right click and create a new rule. And what we want to do is choose port, and then we want to keep it as TCP specific port of 80. HTTP traffic by default is port 80. And then allow the connection and then leave all three of those checked. And we're going to call this Apache port 80. And click finish. And you can see right there that it has created the rule to allow traffic through. So we're going to go ahead and close that. On the local machine, of course, we can still connect. If I minimize this and I come here and do the same thing again, you can see that I've reached the document root from my local computer. So we have successfully set up a web server on a Windows machine. And that's all you have to do. There's one other thing I want to talk about, and that is how to set up your domain to point to that web server. So once you've purchased a domain, what happens is it usually is created using the registrar's default name servers, which is what you want when you want to use it the way we're going to use it. You don't really change the name servers in this case. What you're actually going to change is an A record. You're going to create an A record for this domain. So in my case, I purchased the domain through 101 Domain. And I kept their name servers the way they were. And the reason I did that is because I want 101 domain to act as the DNS server, and point it towards the IP I tell it to point towards. So what you can do here is, once you're here, you can see I've already created these records, and I told 3amigos.org to point towards the server IP, and www.3amigos.org to point towards that server IP. And if you haven't created them yet, you just add an A record, and then you just have it point towards the IP address you want it to point towards. So that's really all there is to that. It's super simple. Keep in mind that changes of this sort can take up to 48 hours to propagate. So that means if you go to your registrar that you bought the domain at, you've added these records, you've clicked submit, and then you go to your web browser and you try to reach the web server and you can't reach it. That's simply because your registrar has not gotten the news out to all of the name servers out in the world that that's where that name needs to point towards. So it usually happens pretty quickly, but it can take up to 2 days for the changes to affect everyone everywhere. So keep that in mind. Other than that, that's it. You've installed a web server with PHP and MySQL successfully on a Windows VPS. And I just want to mention again on my way out how much I appreciate GG Hosting for providing me a VPS to work with so I can create all these how-to videos. If you need a VPS host, give them a try. I've been happy with them for the limited amount of time I've been using them. They've been great. They've answered all my questions quickly. Super nice bunch of guys. So if you need one, hit up gg/hosting.net. Use the promo code SCHWIM, SCHWIM, for 10% off on your order. And until next time, I'll talk to you guys later.